The Iowa State men's basketball team has gone 10-1 in non-conference play. Who's to say they can't go 18-2 or maybe 19-1 in conference play? We'll have to discuss that today on Locked On Cyclones.
You are Locked On Cyclones, your daily podcast on the Iowa State Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello. Welcome in to Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And shout out to you guys that listen every single day. If you make this your first watch or listen every single day here on YouTube, obviously where you watch completely free, huge shout out to you guys. You guys are the ones that make this world go round. I couldn't appreciate you enough. Today's episode, we got a lot to break down. Okay. Before we get there, be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening or watching so we can prove once and for all that it is, in fact, a Cyclone state. But now that you've done that, three big things today, 3 big points. Iowa State beats Morgan State, last non-conference game. We got to break down that game and the whole non-conference slate as a whole. Then TJ Otzelberger had some comments about the non-conference play from Iowa State this season. What did he say? What do we make of those comments? Then finally, I will time mark it for you guys. Football, little transfer portal action. Some things got a little hot in the pan over the weekend, so we'll have to break that down finally. But before we get to all of that, today our episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And to start off today's episode, let's just jump right into the game that happened yesterday. Sunday, Iowa State beats Morgan State 99-72. What I say, Iowa State's going to dominate here. If you pull up the actual tape, I think I said we win by 40 or 50 points. A little bit, obviously, exaggerated on that. I wouldn't have been surprised with 40 or 50, and we'll get into that in just a second. But either way, Iowa State wins this one pretty handedly. The box score is going to show Iowa State dominating here. But I don't think the game exactly went that way. And I will say this, before we get in too deep on this game, this is not a game that I am pulling, narratives or conclusions from. Okay. This is the last game before a winter break, essentially, for these guys. Okay. We're right after finals. We had a week off. Just the way that this, it's just how it goes, right? We've talked about, these are humans. These are people playing this game. And honestly, most years the game after Iowa and this game, right before break, probably not the best games to draw conclusions from. We kind of saw that a little bit already. So I'm going to make a few comments here, but I'm going to try to mostly talk about the non-conference slate as a whole, because I think if you were to dive into this one game, I don't think that's really worth your time. But we should probably talk about it a little bit. I feel like that's fair. What is that, like 8 or 9% of the non-conference slate? It's 1 of 11. I don't know exactly what that fraction works out to be. But either way, Iowa State wins at 99-72. I think that's 27 points, I want to say. And we look at our guys. I've got the box score pulled up here. And every single starter had double digits. Curtis Jones also had 19 coming off the bench. That right there, I absolutely love. And we will get into that more in the second segment today. But I can't believe what I'm looking at here. Working from the top to bottom, Jefferson, Momcilovic, Jackson, Lipsy, Gilbert, they go 11, 10, 12, 20, 18. And then Curtis Jones chips in with 19. Basically, I'm looking at almost full minutes here for all these guys. Jefferson with 25. That's going to be the lowest you're going to see. Curtis Jones actually comes in with 30 minutes there, so he does exceed every starter besides Keyshawn Gilbert, who had 18. So your top score is 20-19-18. I love the way that this is spread out across this team. I think that is one of the most isn't the word, but like one of the biggest shining lights of this team, the way they share the ball. Like I said, that'll be coming down the pipe in the second segment. Overall, like my biggest takeaway from this was transition defense was rough. But after the game, Taman Lipsy and Momcilovic were asked about that, and they were kind of like, hey, we knew that was going to happen coming in. This is one of the fastest playing teams in college basketball. We just have to be better about stopping that. And, to be honest, I agree. But also, you won by 27. So I think that's kind of where this is, right? Like, I heard a couple of guys talking about like this. It felt like a little bit of a wreck game, right? Like it's hard to really make a lot of really good conclusions from this game, just because it was kind of a bit of a blowout. Obviously, Iowa State up 50-34 at half, so already a 16-point lead there, and then it gets extended even a little bit more in the second half. Looking at Morgan State here, 18 points for Amari Simpkins, and then another 23 from Cameron Hobbs. You got two guys that kind of stood out and a couple other dudes that kind of slipped by the wayside there. But overall, I'm looking at the entire Iowa State non-conference slate here. And 10-1, really good record. If I were to grade the whole thing, I'd probably give them an A. I saw a lot of what I felt to be slippages in some of these games, but like I'm saying, against a Morgan State, how much is that really worth versus, an Omaha or a Jackson State when you're winning by 40 points, 20, 30, 40 points? How much are we really going to pull from a game like that? A game like Iowa, that one I will take, a little more solace in. I'll kind of dive a little bit deeper into something like that. I didn't think we started very hot in that game. I think that's going to maybe be this team's downfall overall. But I mean, when you look at this slate here, Auburn, Dayton, Colorado out in Maui, didn't get Auburn, but we got Dayton, Colorado. Then we obviously beat Marquette at home, number 5. And I think we were 6 at the time. And then Iowa on the road, and Iowa probably not going to turn a ton of heads this year, which as a Cyclone fan, I'm just going to end that sentence. But, that's still, I hold a lot of value in rivalry games across every sport ever. I think they're always significantly harder games, and they're played a lot tighter. So while the Iowa game might not be held in such high regard to like a committee or anybody else judging these games impartially, as an Iowa State Cyclone, now alum, kind of crazy at this point. I actually can't believe that I'm saying that. But knowing it from the inside out, those games always going to be played tighter. And so obviously proud of the boys for pulling out that win, especially doing it in Iowa City. I think we're 0-4 in the last 4 meetings there. Losing by an average of like 19 points per game. We pulled it out. We found it. And that is, in my opinion, the brightest shining light from this non-conference slate. Obviously, the last second loss to Auburn, who is now, I believe, Ken Palm 1. That's a what they call in college football quality loss. Like that is, in my opinion, a very valid loss. There were some things from that game that I didn't love, for sure. But overall, like if you're going to lose a game, I would lose it like that for sure. The Iowa game is where I think this team kind of found who they are a little bit. But when you look at a lot of these other games, like Marquette, we beat kind of handedly, 11 there. Jackson State, Omaha, Morgan State, 3 of those last 4 being teams like that. I just don't think there's a lot to pull from there, to be completely honest. But to be, even more honest, I don't have as much to say about this team as the actual coach, right? The guy who's with them every single day and who's out there on the hardwood during these games. We'll have to break down, what did TJ Otzelberger think of this non-conference slate for the Cyclones, and what does it mean moving forward? We'll go into that right after this. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about that you were paying or paying for twice? That definitely happened to me, unfortunately. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is a subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Trust me, did not know there were so many subscriptions I was paying for. Thankfully, Rocket Money actually they were pretty clutch there. Plus, with our goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every month, big time after graduation. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked on. rocketmoney.com/locked on. All right. I hate to break it to you. I don't have any actual footage of what TJ Otzelberger said during his press conference after the win over Morgan State, but I do have what I like to call notes. We take our notes here at Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And boy, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if I took this many notes in 4 years here at Iowa State, 4.5 years. This guy had a lot to say, and honestly, spit bars the entire time. A little bit of younger lingo there, trying to stay young. He did not miss. He really did not. So there were some questions asked. He answered them. He took a few sips of water. Wish I could do the same. Getting a little bit of cotton mouth here. So if I stumble over words, I apologize. Let's jump into it. So that non-conference schedule, TJ Otz was asked about it a little bit. And really, he was like, you know what? That non-conference schedule, that's where you want to learn. That's where you want to understand where you can improve as a team. Where are you strong? And I love this take. He said, if we can do that through success, that's even better. Doing it through a loss is like, it's tough. It hurts morale almost. He didn't say these words. I am kind of pulling a little bit, but he's like, it kind of hurts morale. I'd rather do it through a win than a loss because it helps obviously with standing. And then on top of that, your actual like inside the room, how are we doing? Are we winning or are we losing? You pull more from a loss in theory. Like that's what everyone always says. Don't be scared of failure. You learn the most through failure. But if you could learn through winning, wouldn't you kind of win through, like, why wouldn't you choose that? Why wouldn't you choose to learn through winning? And that's basically exactly what TJ Otzelberger said here. Like, hey, we learned a lot this non-conference. We did it through winning. That is awesome. He also said there's a lot of positives to take away from this. And I kind of like this as well. He's seen what the team can be. And I agree. I've seen very bright flashes from this Iowa State team. But he said, hey, consistency-wise, offensively, defensively, this is where we can improve. And he also talks a little bit more about points of improvement later in his interview. But I like that quite a bit, saying, hey, this team can be just absolutely unbelievable. Like, it really can be so good. We've seen it. And now it's time to, like, really hunker down on the things we do well and make the things that we're struggling with a little bit, work on those and just kind of elevate that team level of play as a whole as we go into this conference play. And I will go into one comment he made here towards the end as we go through this. Next up, he was asked about like areas of improvement, like I said. And really, he said, guarding the ball, especially in the middle on the pick and roll. They were exposed a little bit during the game against Morgan State. Like I said, just a very fast team in Morgan State. And I wonder if that's why. Maybe it's just on the top of his head. Overall, I thought this team, what I've seen thus far during the season, very, I don't want to say overcommittal, but very committal to the double team, which seems to hurt them more times than it doesn't. Which that's not to say it's a bad, strategy, but like we have to maybe take some more things into account here. So I think that goes into like the guarding the ball. Are we going to double team them or are we going to let them get an open look? Because against Iowa, it felt like in that first half, they were just getting open look after open look after open look. And it didn't really help us, to be completely honest. So I'm not trying to draw conclusions from some of those games like Morgan State, but like in Iowa, that one was one where we saw it felt like they just weren't closing out effectively. And he effectively says that here. He also liked, looking forward, maybe focusing on finishing plays on the glass, boxing out, and pursuing with two hands. Those are 3 points he made. If we're going to win games on the glass, we're going to win a lot of games. That's my take, not his. That's where you turn the tide in games. Do you get a second chance on offense, or do you shut down their miss immediately and go take points on offense? I think rebounds are absolutely huge, and I like his point of pursuing with two hands. I don't know why, because to be fair, I haven't played basketball in probably like 9 years, but that makes complete sense. Like it just does. And then also boxing out. I mean, if you've ever played 1 second of basketball, that might have been the first thing you learned. Get your butt into them, get the hands back, and box them out. Don't let them get near the rebound. That's something that's super, super duper fundamental. Makes complete sense why he would bring that up. But he also said, hey, I like the way that we're sharing the ball. As I said during the recap slightly of Morgan State, this team, we had 6 guys with double digit points and one with pretty substantial points coming off of the bench, I would say, with 30 minutes especially. Is he even really coming off the bench at that point? Technically, yes. But either way, I like the way that this team shares the ball. So does TJ Otzelberger. Obviously, he also likes their way they attack from the perimeter into the paint, and they need to be more patient at times. So I guess he likes the first half, doesn't so much like the second half. I couldn't agree more. That patience portion is my biggest point. Okay, end of story. It feels like at times this team can succumb to the urge to go and just fire shot for shot with a team. Let's just take a team, Morgan State, for example, goes down, shoots the 3. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, we should go shoot a 3 right away. Bang. And it doesn't matter if it's make, miss. I don't like it either way. I like Iowa State when we get our offense going. I like when we're able to get more ball movement incorporated, when we're able to take what might be considered to be an open look and turn that into a wide open look, if you will. Does that make sense? So I don't hate that take at all from TJ Otzelberger. And a little bit of a spoiler here, I don't really disagree with anything that he says during this interview. It was like an 8-minute clip, just bars. Dude is literally, I need to get my shirt to fit kind of like him. You can see it's kind of baggy. Once I get on that level, I hope to have that level of just like mental, wow, he's spitting straight bars. Next point here, he talks about he understands the strength of the Big 12. If we lose, we have to be able to bounce back, and there's no real time off. Remember, this is a 20-game conference schedule. Almost said non-conference. 20-game conference schedule. The Big 12 is used to a 18-game conference schedule. He kind of talks about like, hey, there's not really a bye week in here. We have to go. If we fall short in one of these games, we have to be able to bounce back and go get the next one. And he also makes the point in there saying sometimes in the Big 12, you are going to play a very, very good game, almost your best game, and the other team is just going to beat you. Like that is going to happen. My mind immediately goes to UConn shooting 10 for 11 from on the arc against Iowa State, the women's team. That is an insane stat. That's not even like UConn playing their A game. We're playing our A game and we lose. That's like some storybook type shooting. That's not even hardly realistic. I don't know if I could go 10 for 11 from the block, to be completely honest. So, which is partially a testament to my own basketball skill, but let's not get into that. And so I think what he's saying there is this Big 12 conference as a whole, extremely, extremely talented. And sometimes you're just going to lose one. Sometimes that is literally the way that it goes. The ball may be round, but sometimes it might not bounce your way. I like that. I like that he's aware that this conference is extremely, extremely talented at basketball. And sometimes that, you do learn from losses as well. So don't take those as a pure bad thing. You maybe build off those, but you have to be able to bounce back. And I love that. That's why he's obviously got that extension through 2032. I love his mentality towards that. He was asked about the message during, right before break. What did he send out to the team? Kind of like, this is our big picture here. And he led off with, hey, we got 3 big things that are kind of like his, like, things come in sets of 3. He's like, all right, these are my 3 main points. He wants to be able to guard the ball well, rebound the ball well, and share the ball well. Pretty solid. I mean, this guy could make I just know his presentation game is on A. Like, he is not missing for sure. I'd love to see him speak. That being said, he kind of was like, hey, share the ball well. That's what we're doing really, really well right now. We could definitely improve on guarding the ball well and rebounding the ball well. But hey, overall, we did the job we needed to do during the non-conference slate here, 10-1, close loss to Auburn there. And then he was like, hey, go recharge with your families. Take a few days. We'll be back. So don't worry about basketball so much. Take some time, be with your families, and then come back ready to go. And I love that. I really do. Let the players kind of indulge in that, holiday atmosphere with their families, kind of find just almost not a place away from basketball, but not get so locked in on it and really be themselves. And then they can come back real fresh. I love that. I absolutely love that. I love that he also was kind of like, hey, we're doing some things really well, but also a few things we do need to tune up. So when you come back on the 26th, no, we are going to attack this. We are going to be the best team that we possibly can be. And that's, I mean, what am I saying here? Otzelberger does not miss. Last few things here, season high on blocks in this game. He mentioned like, hey, that's good and bad. Obviously, like the plays we're making on the interior, but overall, we can't be letting them get on the interior. Maybe a little bit slow out on the perimeter there. They need to be more physical in the post in general. What were his thoughts? I agree, but also we can't overlook Joshua Jefferson, dog. I mean, he just is. Deshaun Jackson and Momcilovic. I love that three-headed monster. Huge fan of everything they've done. Last comment I will say here. He said, I don't think anyone will go 20-0 in the Big 12 in this conference. TJ, dude, Iowa State's going 20-0. What are we even talking about here? What are we talking about here? My official pick will be 18-2. But we are going 20-0. I am sorry to break it to you, my friend. That statement of no one will go 20-0 in the conference is incorrect. It just is. And that is because Iowa State is going to go 20-0 in the conference. I can't wait to see it. Next year, Iowa State will go undefeated in football as well. There will be a few changes to the roster, obviously, though, and we'll have to break those down through the transfer portal right after this. The annual NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W, if you will. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. It's thrilling, to say the least. Not only can you bet on who will win the game, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, we're looking to make our transition from basketball, from the hardwood to the turf, to the football field. You're here with Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And we got a big point we got to make. Over the weekend, things got hot in the transfer portal. Things opened up, I believe it was the 9th. We've been doing this for a few, almost a couple weeks now. And they will close down in just a few days. But that doesn't mean that it's over, right? We've got something we have to talk about. On Twitter, Tyler Onyedem, I'm probably butchering his name, but said, hey, thank you for everything, Cyclone Nation. I'm going to the transfer portal with a year of eligibility remaining. Defensive end for the Cyclones. I've got his stats pulled up right here. On the year, he had 15 solo tackles. He assisted in 18 more, making a total of 33. For the year, I'm looking for what do we got? Sacks. He had a total of 3, 2 last year and 1 the year prior. No sacks this year. Obviously, a difference maker for the Cyclones with 15 solo tackles, but I wouldn't say he was unbelievable. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I just don't think looking at those stats. I mean, it's not like I'm watching Micah Parsons here. He will be missed, though, for sure. I wish we could keep him because obviously coming into another year with a year of development underneath him, this guy, Tyler could be so good. Could be so good. Decides to leave, and that's just sometimes what's going to happen. I assume he won't play against Miami, though there have been some teams like Arizona State in particular, the one that turns a lot of heads after the last game Iowa State played in. Teams, that are saying, hey, these guys are going into the portal, but they're still with the team. Especially, you're seeing it more in playoff teams because they're still playing, these games. They'll be playing games outside the portal window, and they care for their players. I don't know what's going to happen. I assume he will not play, though. And I guess when I go about saying this whole defensive end position, what are we doing here? Obviously, a point of emphasis for the Cyclones. We had a rough year, not entirely across the defense. I'd say we overall had a pretty successful year, but defensive line wise, I personally didn't feel like we had any pass rush besides maybe a few games, maybe. But overall, it was not very much there. I'm looking at sack numbers across these guys, and I'm just not seeing what I feel like I should be seeing from this team. Obviously, very hurt on defense, especially at the linebacker position. And I look to seeing more of those guys back next year. But losing a defensive end that is used to the system, is used to the way we run things here, is never going to be great. Obviously we're going to feel that. And defensive end is one of those positions that's kind of tough to fill. You see it everywhere. You see it especially in the NFL. The absolute top tier standout defensive ends in the NFL are extremely expensive and honestly barely ever leave because the teams that have them want to keep them, like a Myles Garrett or a like I said, Micah Parsons, right? Like a TJ Watt or a JJ Watt. Like JJ did move at the end of his career there, but like these guys are generally pretty locked in with their team, locked on, if you will. Yeah, shout out Locked On, everyone in the community, bunch of great guys. My point being that when we lose a defensive end, it's kind of tough to fill that slot. Luckily, Iowa State was able to do that, just that thing and fill that position. I don't think this is a 1-for-1 or we can just stop worrying about this. I don't think that's what this is at all. But we did bring in a transfer from Tulsa at the defensive end position. Kind of crazy. Same position on the day in which Tyler leaves. But it is a guy by the name of Vontre Malone. Hope I'm saying that right. I'm not, like I said, trying to butcher these guys' names. 6'3", 240 pounds. And I mean, I like it. We need to put focus on this defensive end, on this interior defensive line. I don't think we need so much focus at defensive tackle. And then obviously our secondary is solid. And we've already added a guy at corner as well. I think it was from Lindenwood. Look, overall, defensive end and defensive line are where this team, in my opinion, can improve the most. If you had to pick one single spot on the roster, on the team, where would you pick? Let me know in the comments below. I'd probably go defensive line, defensive end. I felt like our pass rush all year was pretty lacking, to be completely honest, and that can absolutely shape the way a game is played in way more ways than one. I just think that's very much how games go. They're very much dictated by how much pressure is put on the quarterback. And if you need a blitz, 6 guys, 6 guys or 7 guys, you're only dropping 4, and you're going to be in trouble if you're dropping 4. You better hope you get there. So if you could create pressure with 4 or with 3, that is a huge, huge advantage in still being able to cover the secondary. Because I don't know very many secondaries that are able to cover the whole field with 4 guys. Like, that's got to be tough to do. When that came out of my mouth, I'm like, that's got to be impossible. That has to be impossible. I don't know. Maybe it's not. If any secondary can do it, it's probably Iowa State's. But if we were able to send 4 or 3, we run that 3-3-5, and get solid pressure and force the quarterback to make rushed throws or difficult throws, feel the pressure, maybe step up in the pocket more. I'd be interested to see how that plays out. I cannot tell you, unfortunately, exactly how that's going to play out, but I feel like it's not an unfair assumption to say Iowa State would perform better on defense. So I love that Iowa State is targeting this defensive end and defensive tackle, interior lineman position, bringing in Vontre from Tulsa. That's huge. 6'3", 240, big dude. I love it. It does hurt that Tyler Unwanted leaves, but I will say apparently another window opens up in April. I am learning along with you guys on this transfer portal situation, but that could be big. But this is the rush. This is certainly when things, are most potent, when most moves are being made. And so, yes, Onyedem leaving hurts, but I don't think we can slow down. I think obviously bringing in Malone is going to be big, but we still have to keep that foot on the gas pedal. We got to keep everything moving. This is that one point where I'd like to see the team make the most movement. And is this cause for concern? No, I don't think, losing Onyedem is like the end of the world, but I still think it's a point of like, hey, we're losing a little bit of depth, if not anything else. And this is certainly something we have to. Can we please? I think that'd be great. I also think it'd be great if you'd leave a review and or subscribe so we can prove once and for all that it is in fact a Cyclone state here with Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Shout out to you guys for listening every day. I cannot convey into words how much it means to me. That being said, until next time, Cyclone fans, sayonara.